The CEO and co-founder of Angel City FC, Julie Uhrman is here. Julie, yes, exactly. I know you didn't get a chance for coffee, but we've still got energy in the room. Julie, there's two big stories here. One is your story, and one is the story of Angel City. And I think your story very much informs the story of Angel City and your whole approach to setting up the team and setting up the club. So let's start with you, because you have worked in some incredibly diverse areas. You've worked at Playboy, you've worked in gaming, you've worked in... But my point about that was to ask you about working in areas that are traditionally seen as male areas, that are male-driven areas, and your role in all of that.
Yeah, well, first, I just want to thank Women in Football for letting me come, Ebru for inviting me. Everyone knows Ebru, she's amazing. So thank you for having me. But yeah, I mean, when I look back on my career, all of it except for Angel City, and that's because we were a female-founded team, and not necessarily intentionally, but I built an entirely female leadership group, has been in male-dominated industries. So I started as an investment banker on a trading floor, 60 men, 2 women. I then spent a lot of time in the video game space, which is predominantly men in game development, entertainment, you mentioned Playboy, but and then I built my own company called Uhrman, which was an Android-based video game console. And when I look at the commonality other than that, it's really about building community and bringing new products to market. And I think that's the overlap with football. If you guys know my backstory, I'm a basketball player. I never played football. I watched football every 4 years, and that was either the Olympics or the World Cup, and I wasn't somebody that breathed it. In fact, when Natalie and Kara asked me to join them to build Angel City, Kara asked me, and I responded with 2 questions. I was like, first, wait, your partner's the Natalie Portman? Like the actress Natalie Portman? And she said yes, and I was like, okay. And then I said, wait, there's professional women's football in the United States? I'm sure I called it soccer at the time, so I'll be honest. I said, there's professional women's soccer in the United States? And she said, yes. I had no idea the National Women's Soccer League existed. And to me, that was just the incredible opportunity. It's like, we had just won the World Cup in 2019 for the 2nd time in a row, which hadn't been done ever by women's teams. We have the best players in the world as part of the U.S. Women's National Team. They all play in the National Women's Soccer League. And here I am, a huge sports fan in the sports capital of the world, and had no idea that our professional league even existed.
So what was your motivation then for getting involved? Because you, as you said, that was a kind of shortened version of your CV, but you have this entrepreneurial spirit, and it's much longer than what we've been able to touch on here.
Yeah, we'd be here hours, and nobody wants to be here any longer. It was interesting. I mean, I grew up playing sport. I love sport. I never thought I could have a career in sport. It never even occurred to me. For those of you that are my age or older, there was a movie at the time called Jerry Maguire, which Tom Cruise was in. And he was an agent. And I was like, oh, I can be an agent. Because that was the only thing I saw, right? We as women talk a lot about this concept of to see it is to be it, right? So how do you get female coaches and female technical directors and female GMs and female presidents? And then how do we make sure that you know we exist so that the next generation sees that there's a pathway? Well, I never saw a pathway to females in sports. There was Jerry Maguire, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I realized the real Jerry Maguire's company is in the middle of the United States, and I'm not going from Los Angeles to the middle of the United States. And that was it. There was no more curiosity. There was no more investigation. And when we were building Angel City, there was no playbook. There was no team that was founded by women, majority owned by women, launched by women. There weren't any ownership groups that had even women as part of it. It was typically families, right, or large private equity companies. So we didn't see it at all. And when we started building Angel City, we were very intentional about being able to share our playbook. And the idea was to sort of light a fire in Angel City that others would follow. And we can talk about Angel City, but there really was nothing that we did that was unique or different or special. In fact, the irony of all of it was when we were trying to raise money, so you didn't have to ask a question, I could just talk.
I'm having a lovely time.
When we started raising money, we tell the story because it's true. We got 100 no's. And a lot of the no's are, you'll never be successful in Los Angeles. There are 11 professional sports teams. There's the beach, there's the mountains. If you're going after young girls, they all play club soccer. They're gone every weekend. Your audience isn't even there to come and see a game. You'll never be successful. Fast forward 18 months, it's like, of course you're successful. It's Los Angeles. It's the sports capital of the world. And I was like, okay, right? It's like, no, it's like what we built is what made it successful.
When you talk about 100 no's, that's kind of your motto or your mantra, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beat the no.
Beat the no. Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur, which means I hear no more than I ever hear yes. And when you think about it, it's so much easier for someone to say no than it is to say yes. You actually don't have to think to say no, right? You don't have to be curious to say no. You don't have to be inventive or creative. You don't have to be a risk taker to say no. It's so much harder to say yes, because then you're making a bet. Then you're taking a risk. You're putting your name on the line, your reputation on the line, your business on the line, your money on the line. So it's so much harder to say yes. And when we started fundraising, because what we were trying to do had never been done before, we wanted to build a women's professional sports team that drove to equity. That was our platform. So the Angel City mission is to use sport and entertainment to drive to equity. And we wanted to build an organization where mission and capital could coexist, where we never sacrificed one for the other. So you walk into a room of traditional investors, which are predominantly men who own maybe other clubs or large businesses who have the net worth requirements to be an owner. And that's traditionally who we're owners. So we were going after, we got in all the rooms. Like, that's the hard part, right? But we got in all the rooms, and they kept saying no, because it was like, first of all, you're 3 females, strike 1. You have no sports experience, strike 2. I always like to say it's the beginning of a joke. An actress, a venture capitalist, an entrepreneur walk into a bar. You walk out with a professional women's soccer team. Like, how does that happen? So they would say no, and then we'd get the Los Angeles issue as a no. But then if we got past those no's, they would say, well, I don't understand. Are you a charity or are you a sports team? Like, you can't be both. Like, is it like I'm buying a table and it's a $25,000 table, or am I investing in a sports team? Because 90% of all sports teams don't make money. The best men's clubs in the world don't make money. And you're going to give back at the same time you're running a business that doesn't make money? Like, it doesn't make sense. And so we started fundraising in Kara, Natalie, and I started talking in August. We started fundraising at the beginning of October. And by December, I vividly remember a phone call with Kara saying, look, if we don't get to a yes soon, like, I don't know how much longer we can go at this. Like, maybe people just don't believe in it, even though we did passionately. And at that time, Natalie says, well, why don't you talk to my friend Eva Longoria?
Casually.
Casual. And she's like, she loves sports and she loves football. Like, maybe she'll love this. Okay. So I get on the phone with Eva, and before, like, all the pitches were Kara, Natalie, and I, and we had a deck, and, it was really professional. But I just get on a phone with Eva, and I give this whole story, the whole pitch, and at the end, she's like, I'm in. First words out of her mouth, I'm in. And the typical response is, thank you. Instead, my response was, why? Because I'd gotten 100 no's, like, and my pitch was exactly the same. And she said what I knew to be true, but never heard, which is like, I get it. She's like, you're a platform. And you're going to use your platform to promote equity and to promote your social causes in the same way you're going to use your platform to promote gender equity, pay equity, visibility equity, to drive excitement and interest and investment in women's sports that others can follow. And she goes, I'm a platform. Like, I use social media to promote my social causes as much as I use it to promote my next directorial debut or my next television debut or next movie. So she's like, I get it. And that was the massive light bulb moment for us, which is we're talking to the wrong people. We weren't talking to people that loved women's football. We weren't talking to people that understood that you could use football for something greater. We weren't talking to people that believed in Los Angeles. Like, we just weren't talking to the right people. And then immediately I was like, so Natalie, who else do you know? And it was, Jennifer Gardner and Jessica Chastain and Lily Singh and Billie Jean King. That was fun. I go and pitch Billie Jean King, and that was the one where I was pretty off put. And so it's Billie and Alana Kloss, who's amazing, her business partner. And the first thing out of their mouth was, why didn't you come to us first? She's like, all we do is invest in women's sport. And I'm like, you're Billie Jean King, and you should yell at Julie Foudy. She's your best friend, But then we just realized, like, if you talk to the people that are more willing to say yes, then their arguments are more constructive. And then you can actually have a real conversation, and then it's so much easier to get that no to a yes.
So that's the answer then to the question that you kept being asked, which is, are you a sports club or are you a charitable foundation? You've you are a platform.
You're
That Eva
both.
Longoria gave you the answer to that. And it is, but it is an unusual concept for people who are enmeshed in traditional sports and the way that sport is done traditionally to get their heads around.
Look, so the one thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur, when you bring a new product to market, no matter what it is, if you were to be successful, you have to have an emotional connection with your fan base or with your customer base. They have to want you and your product more than anything else. It has to almost be, and this just is the definition of sports, it has to be an irrational relationship with that product. And so I'll give you an example. If you had an Android phone and an Apple phone, right? Intellectually, you know that the Android phone is better. It's better, like the system is better, the operating system is better, it's cheaper. So hold on a second. Here's a product that is better and cheaper, and I'm still buying the iPhone. Why? Because the iPhone represents something that represents me. It's something that I have a connection with. So when I put my iPhone on the table, it means something, right? So when you're launching a new product, if you can create that irrational, emotional connection with your customer, your fan base, it gives you permission, it gives you time. It gives you time to make mistakes, it gives you time to build. And so we're going to be a brand new team in a very crowded marketplace where there's already 2 professional men's football clubs. So how can I develop that emotional connection with my fan base? And for us, that was leading with purpose and having a positive impact and using equity to drive essentials in education in our community. And then it was, how do you authentically tell that story, right? Because even today, especially the younger audience, they will call you on it if you're not being authentic, right? They have no problem calling you out on anything. And so for us, it was every single time we show up, we're going to show up for football and we're going to show up for our community. We're going to give back to our community when we show up and talk about Angel City. So, we built Angel City during the pandemic, so it was equipment distribution drives, it was food drives, it was tons of Zooms where we'd have like leadership classes with Julie Foudy or Abby Wambach, but we always, when we asked something of them, which is, hey, support our club, we were giving back something at the exact same time, and it's been built into the DNA of Angel City.
Just tell me a bit more about the sort of environment that you were going into. As you said, there are 2 men's teams, and there had been a women's team that only lasted a year. So you were going into a situation where the history wasn't good. So how do you make it different? How do you make that emotional connection?
Well, it's even worse than that, because we were also in our 3rd iteration of a professional soccer league in the United States. So it was in its 8th year, and it was interesting. For the people we actually had a couple of meetings where people believed us. They're like, if anybody can do this, the 3 of you can pull this off, but is the league going to exist? And our argument was, well, we'll have a seat at the table. So if we can have a seat at the table, we can affect the decisions of the league, which will make the league be more successful and have more longevity, and we'll hopefully lead by example. With the 2 professional teams in the market, what was interesting was they couldn't be more different. So LA Galaxy has been around since inception. It'd been there for 25 years. It had a strong fan base. It won multiple MLS Cups, and it'd been around forever. And then you have LAFC, which is this brand new club hitting a sort of a different demographic with a different vibe. And we spent a lot of time really like researching, how did LAFC come to market? How did the Seattle Sounders come to market? How did Atlanta come to market? Because those were 3 teams that started with community. And what you saw was, again, if they started with community, it gave them permission to build their club and to eventually win. And so for us, it was telling our story often and loud. I mean, I would go to, before Angel City even existed, I would go to all of these clubs, practices. I'd get 5 minutes before the practice would start, and the parents were there, and I'd be like, oh, have you heard of LAFC and the Galaxy? Yes. Wouldn't you love to have a women's team here? And I'd like teach them that there's this team called Angel City that's coming. Yeah. We built a street team from the beginning. We've done, each year we do over 200 events. So it educates the community about Angel City. It educates them about our values. We're giving back at the same time. And so that's how we did it, is we showed that we were going to be part of the community, and hope that, and then the second part is, and we talked about this a little bit in earlier panels, but we didn't just put on a football game, right? I mean, someone said it earlier that the United States is much more about the entertainment of sport, and we are, right? And so, especially in LA, especially with 2 men's other football teams, also, there's basketball games, there's baseball games, there's hockey games. Every sport plays at the same time that we play. So how do you get them to want to come to Angel City game? And it's creating this FOMO experience where our motto is every game is somebody's first game. Like imagine that as a corporation. Every game is somebody's first game. So every game we're trying to raise the bar on what we provide our fans, and so that when a fan comes and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing, and you bring your friend, and then you're blown away again. And so we wanted to create this experience where there's an experience for all, there's entertainment, there's an opportunity to create community and a sense of belonging. One of the other panels talked about, I think it was Mario, where he talked about the fan experience for Como, and they focused really on family. And I'm sitting back there and I'm like, well, we're really different. Like we did not, in most startups, whenever you're launching a product, you start with a very narrow audience, you nail that audience, and you suddenly like widen the aperture, right? And you grow your fan base. And we came at it very differently, and we said, we're going to create an experience for all. So we have 3 mottos. Every game is somebody's first game, an experience for all, and a price point for all. And the price point for all was really important because, first of all, this is Los Angeles. People pay $10,000 to sit courtside at a Lakers game. So the money's there. So why would I ever devalue this product if I knew there was an audience that was willing to pay if the product was good? And I knew the product was good because I've got all these national team players from all around the world in this league. And so we wanted to value the product, value the players, and value the experience. So, you know, a single game ticket will go from $15 to $1,500, you know, and we sell out. We have suites that go up to $50,000 for the season. So pricing, it was important because it talked about the value of the product. Creating experience for everyone was important. So like, yes, we have our spirit stations and our experiences for kids, but then we have the bar. We were talking about, Jackie Oakley was talking about the tall tables. Like, yes, we have our bar, but we have the DJ, and then we have the entertainment, and then, you know, we have the experiential, and then we bring all of our partners in. We create a fan fest for half of our games. That starts 4 hours before every game. We'll have 3,000 to 4,000 fans that show up. And then we also keep the doors open 90 minutes after the game, and we open up, we have an amazing stadium that we play at, BMO. There's a sunset deck bar, and people go, like we have hundreds of people after the game is over. I only go up there if we win because everyone's having such a good time that if you go up there after lose, you wouldn't know. And I'm like, how are you all happy?
Yeah.
So I only go up there after we win. But it's about creating that experience.
Yeah, and you have all that kind of the glamour of Hollywood, the superstar investors, and you know you have this sports crazy city in LA and this huge population that you can draw from, and some of those aspects are not transferable. But I think the one that is most transferable is you're meeting people where they are and where they want to be. You're not saying to them, we have this great product, come and find us. You're going to them and saying, look, here's what we've done for you. Here's what we've got on offer for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, look, we try to build an incredibly inclusive, diverse, fun, welcoming environment. So to your point, it's no one feels alienated. Everyone feels that they can create a sense of connection. Everyone also can be their authentic selves. They can show up as they are and enjoy our experiences. There was one story, one of our sponsors was there, her husband and her, and they have 2 kids. One was like 5, one was 7. And they were at the match, and she had to go to the bathroom, so she left the 2 kids with her husband, and she's coming back from the bathroom, and her husband's walking to the bathroom. And she looks at him, she's like, where are the kids? They're 5 and 7. Like, you don't leave them, right? And she tells the story, not as bad parenting, but she tells the story, which is like, we felt so comfortable in the environment. Like, neither one of us had any, you know, so like, and that was such a testament to what this team has built, that they felt comfortable, you know, leaving their kids there. But the point is that that's what we're trying to create, which is, you know, to celebrate Angel City together, to feel like we're building it together. I mean, if you've ever seen an Angel City game, we are all in it. Like, we talk about the 12th man, but we are, the fans are really, like, we're just willing this team to succeed and to win. And you can feel it in the stadium. It's different. It's unlike any other, you know, stadium experience, any other NWSL home match. There's nothing like an Angel City one.
Does it differ from LA Galaxy and LAFC games and LAFC and LA Galaxy crowds?
You know, it's funny. So our first season, I went to the LA Galaxy LAFC game, which they call the El Tráfico, right? So it's our derby, and you know, it was blown away.
El Tráfico is a great name.
It's right, El Tráfico. And you know, it's sold out. It's 22,000 fans in BMO Stadium, and it's incredible and high energy. And there's a huge supporter group. So you got the flags and the chants and the smoke, and it's amazing. And we had our home opener, and we had the same thing, all right? We sold out the stadium. We had the smoke. We had the flags. We had the chants. But it was so different because the sound in the stadium was different because you had men and women cheering. So, and you don't realize that when you go to a men's game, how deep the voices are. Like, I never really realized, because grew up, I'm an American football fan, college football fan, so I've been going to games my whole life. I'd only known that one thing, so I never knew there was another way. And then you go to an Angel City match, and it's like they're cheering. It's joyous cheering. It's not like angry cheering, like I hate my coach, like, right? If you win, I'm going to go, But it's like joyous cheering, and it's men and women, and the sound is different. So the feeling that you have is different. It's hard to explain, so you all have to come to an Angel City match, but it's very, very, and it's different. And you could say, well, if you went to a U.S. women's national team match or the USA England match, it's different than that too, because that is way more women, right, and way more young girls. This isn't. Like Angel City is really, it's like 52% women to 48% men, so it's a mix. It's very different, which is incredibly compelling because it's about the product. These women train as hard, they work as hard, the games are as exciting and as compelling, and then to have an audience of men, women, girl, boys, enjoying it together is really special.
Yeah, it does sound incredible. And even just watching it on the TV, you can see that people are just, as you said, completely emotionally connected to it. The other thing that you mentioned earlier on was about being a voice at the table, having that presence and being able to drive the NWSL on. And I think that's one of the issues that exists in women's football in this country, is there's a huge disparity in terms of resources, even within one league. How do you feel that the investment into Angel City has driven and improved the league?
I think women always have a hard time saying they do a good job or taking compliments, but I think Angel City fundamentally changed women's football. Because I think it's the first time where a club actually invested in a team the way it should be invested in. I don't know why Kara and I believe so strong. Again, none of us come from sports, right? None of us come from women's football. I didn't even know the league existed. I didn't go to games. I wasn't Kara who was trying to watch a game on Yahoo Sports. But I knew the fans would show up. We just, in our core, knew that there were women football fans. And the reason that only 3% of media coverage covered women's sports is because you had a group of people that controlled the media waves who didn't believe that there were women's sports fans, that people would invest in women's sports, they would come to women's games, they would buy women's merch. And when you looked at the 2019 World Cup, the highest ratings, the highest attendance, Nike sold out of the women's kits. They sold more kits in the month of August than any other team in the whole year for the U.S. women's national team. And it's there were all these data points, and to your point, even though the Soul only lasted a year, they had over 10,000 fans per game. Yeah. Not 3, not 5, 10. And when in 2020, 2019, right before the world shut down with COVID, there were two national team games in LA, and one was a midweek game and one was a Sunday. And I went to the Sunday game. Okay, it's in Carson. It's pouring rain in LA. Pouring. And if it was for any other event or I didn't have to be there, I would have turned around. We're fair weather fans in LA. You guys are core. If the weather's not perfect, if there's no traffic, we're not going. So I went, 15,000 fans. And that's, again, a community that's not going to show up if it's pouring rain. That's not what we do. So we knew just in our core that the fans would be there. But they're not going to be there if you don't give them what they expect, right? Which is an incredible game day experience. And so we invested in the game day experience. We invested in the product. We invested in the community. And we invested in making sure that everyone knew it existed. And it's almost the field of dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. And we just felt like they were saying, we will come if you build it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so we did, and they have. And San Diego followed our playbook to some extent, and home opener, 32,000 fans. They saw an average of 18,000, 19,000 fans, and so this narrative that could only happen in Portland because it's the soccer capital of the world wasn't true. And so then you saw investment by Kansas City, you saw investment by Washington Spirit, and you've seen the value of these expansion fees go up, right? So Angel City bought in 2020 for $2 million. Bay FC and Boston bought in at $53 million 2 years ago, And then Denver just bought their expansion right for $110 million. And in addition to buying the expansion right, they are building a stadium. And they're investing $20 to $30 million into a temporary facility. And they're investing $25 million in. They're going to be out close to $400 million before they kick a ball. So that's real belief and investment. And I think Rowena said it on an earlier panel, women's sports is patient capital, right? It's going to take time. The difference is you're going to go from $2 million to Angel City to $250 million in valuation in 4 years if you invest and build the product, because the fans are there. So the irony is the revenue is actually there. You just have to have people that are willing to invest ahead of it. If you do this I'm going to invest a little bit, wait for a return, invest a little bit, wait for a return. If you're a fan, you're annoyed, right? You're give me the experience I want today, and I promise you I will be there. And so for those of us that have done that, we've been rewarded. Look at Kansas City. They were the first team to build a purpose-built stadium for women's football. They $115 million, $120 million to build a stadium, and it's been sold out every day since. So how many more data points do you need that fans, and it's not just women that are showing up, right? I mean, you see it with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. It's insane what she and Aya Wilson and with this next generation of incredible basketball players are going to do when they come into the WNBA. And now Wasserman has reported that again back in 2019, 2020 it was 3% of all media coverage cover women's sports. Now it's 15-20%. That's incredible. And I know Sky's here. I know the Athletics here. I mean, that's what we need. It's people telling these stories, building up these teams, building up these players, because there are fans. And it's you've made it so incredibly hard to be a women's football fan. And if you are a women's football fan, look at what they have done to become a fan. So all you have to do now is put on a good show, put out some decent merch, make it easy for me to buy it, and everyone, the revenue follows.
The merch is good. The Angel City merch is excellent.
I got a T-shirt idea for everything.
But look, from that 2 million buy-in to the 53 million buy-in for Bay FC, it's such a huge difference. And as you said, it comes with it the increased value of the league. That initial investment, when you explain it, sounds like a no-brainer. But you're the guys taking the risk at the beginning, because you can just end up being out there and being the lone investors, the one team that has a dream.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was no Angel City when we made that investment, so it was sort of even a bigger leap. But look, it was we had a great board and an investor group who believed in what we were doing. And I think the other part of Angel City, which is very different, is the purpose. We're not a football team in a city. We intentionally wanted to be a global brand from day one. Why? Okay. If you're a global brand, you have the ability to generate the most amount of money, right? If I want to start a business and I want to generate the most amount of money possible, well, if I'm a global brand, that means the whole world knows, which means everybody's my customer, right? So if I'm a global brand, I have the opportunity to drive the most amount of revenue, and then I have the ability to put that money back into my impact, right? So why not start at the biggest that you can be? And our mission was always about driving towards equity. And so how do we build this platform, right, where we can drive to pay equity and gender equity and visibility equity? Well, if I can show that I can drive a fan base, if I can sell merch, if I can sell tickets, if I can sell sponsorships, tell the world what that is, because nobody wants to share numbers, but we have no problem sharing numbers because it's still less than men, but it's significantly more than what people were paying or for selling it for, then others will follow. The challenge when we first started is there's no rate card for women's sponsorship. In fact, most people were most men's teams were just giving it away, right? So we had to establish what the value was and then tell everybody, excuse me, what that value was.
I think it's so interesting the way that you talk about the business side of it, because in the UK, I don't know what everybody thinks, but it feels as though that in British football there is this sense that it is emotionally pure, and you almost kind of sully it by talking about the business side of it, and people get, especially when it feels like at times, and this is a more understandable part of it, when fans will feel exploited or they will feel as though they're being milked for every last penny, and there's a kind of, but I do think there's a different approach to the money, the business of sport in the UK than there is in the US. Have you found that?
So, as an entrepreneur,
yes.
When something has value, you're willing to pay for it, right? No one's giving away Cartier rings, right? Like Cartier has a value that that they've justified, that people are gonna spend the money. The value of women's sports is great. Being a fan has value. Like, so, and then there's the element of pride, right? So if I'm in Angel City, I mean, it is different. Like you go to the US, everybody, like my partner's Irish, I buy her all the Angel City gear and she like barely wears it. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, we don't do that. Yeah. I was like, well, why don't you do that? Like, you love the club, you love the players, you care about it, like, show it. It's a representation. I'm a walking billboard of Angel City usually. Because it's, like, it has value. I want to be associated with it. It brings me joy, and my association, I think, increases my value of it. So, like, I don't think it's about milking fans. I'm giving you something that you clearly find value in. The irony of it is, the irony of all of it is, when you talk about pay equity in women's sports, well, I can't pay women the amount that they deserve because I'm not making it. I'm not generating the revenue, so I can't pay the women. Help me generate the revenue to pay the women. Like, you have to be part of the solution as well, right? You can't just yell at the problem. And so we've taken that to heart at Angel City, where we talk about driving to equity, right, and pay equity. So I need to grow my revenue to do that, right? There is an element of business to this. And so we said to our fans, you know what? You play a role in this. So we created this fan field program where 1% of our net gate receipts goes to our players. So if I'm a fan and I care about pay equity and I care about them getting paid more, then buying that ticket means something, right? The better part is when you buy the ticket and you show up, now if I'm good, you're going to buy the merch, you're going to buy some concessions, right? You're going to buy a beer, but that helps grow the revenue that I can ultimately pay the players more. Then we said to the players the same thing. You want to get paid more? You have to be part of the solution too. And so we created this program where if they use their name, image, and likeness, which is incredibly valuable, to promote ticket sales. So Kristen Press is saying, come see me play on Sunday. She's already doing that. So I'm like, Kristen, add the Ticketmaster link. Because someone is way more likely to buy, like, to come see Kristen than maybe to, like, come see Angel City, right? So now they all add the Ticketmaster link, so they're helping drive revenue, which ultimately, like, comes back to them. So we tried to make, like, everyone part of the solution. Now we're in this, like, incredible place where women's football players are being valued. So in 2019, the global transfer, you guys know what the global transfer market for women's football players was? $600,000 in 2019. $600,000. Do you know what it last year was? 15.6 million. And the previous year was 6.1. It more than doubled last year. The value of developing and trading players. Deloitte just came out this morning. Somebody referenced it on the panel. Emma referenced it. But they said the women's sports globally will generate over $2.35 billion. $2.35 billion. That's more than 25% the previous year. Like, you're starting to see this astronomical growth. Now, if you're an investor and I say, okay, hold on. In a matter of 5 years, the value of a player went from $600,000 to $15.6 million. Naomi Gilmore just got traded for $1.1 million. What do you think it's going to cost the NWSL to get her back? Right? I mean, so you're seeing the value grow. You're seeing sponsorship dollars. You're seeing investment in media grow. So where would you want to invest your money right now? You're going to women's football or men's football. There's such a clear, it's so obvious now. Whereas Angel City, there weren't that many touch points. Now there are so many that you can reference.
So your dollar goes further in women's football
and
than
faster.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It's sort of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But you have to value the product. You have to build the product. You have to invest in the players. You have to invest in the team. You have to invest in the community. You have to give people a reason to care. Like, and what is your why? It can't just be winning games. And like, to your point, you talked about like, you said like, you know, you're like selling it, right? Like you're trying to get money out of me. But like, we haven't been around for 150 years. Like, you don't wake up and I'm immediately a Liverpool fan, right? We have to bring you into the women's sports. We have to make you a fan. We have to make you care about, you know, and if you're in the US, you care about the national team first. It's like the opposite, right? You care about the national team, then you find your local team. So I need to make you care about the local team. And so it needs to be more than winning or losing because you can't win every game. I'd like to win more games. We'll get to winning every game soon. So they have to care about something more, and that's what we've given them, which is like this drive towards equity.
I want to open this out to the floor because I know there's going to be lots of questions, and also it gives you a chance to have some water and just get. It's quite a dry room. It's been had the heating on all day. Is there anybody who does have any questions for Julie? Now this is when everybody pretends that they're shy and they're kind of like,
go ahead.
oh, we have, yeah, right at the front. I was looking past. Sorry.
You mentioned name, image, and likeness earlier. I wondered if the stuff that's happening in college is going to, what that effect is going to, the name, image, and likeness stuff in college that is kind of just coming through and that's burgeoning. Is that going to have an effect on the stuff that you guys do? And if so, what can we expect from that?
Yeah, the name, image, and likeness is having a massive impact in sports. It's I would say what's having a bigger impact for us right now are the changes that we made in the NWSL. So we had a new CBA that we just signed. There were some massive changes. First of all, we got rid of the college draft, which again is something that doesn't exist here, but it existed in the US. So we had a college draft and we had an expansion draft where new clubs that came in. We ended both of those. The biggest change with the college draft now is, as clubs, we can't rely on college to develop players. We can't rely on clubs to do the identification of players. And the biggest reason we got rid of it, well, one of the reasons we got rid of it was, if I'm Chelsea, I could come get a college player anytime I want. If I'm Angel City, I have to wait until the draft. Well, I'm creating a barrier for me for literally no reason. So now we as clubs have to invest in stats and analysts and scouts because we now have to be able to watch, the whole world in a way that we never had to before. That's been the biggest change. And interestingly, this is the first year that we haven't had the draft. We have more college kids in the NWSL, and they're at the places they want to be. So everyone's budgets has gone up. My budget's gone up because I need more analysts and I need more scouts, and we're creating our own, data pipeline to analyze players. But it's bringing us more in line with global football and making it so that we can actually compete versus, immediately being on our back foot because we're dependent on a timeline that no one else is.
Yes, over here, I think. I don't know. Laura's earning her money today. You get your steps in, Laura. Have you got your watch on? Yeah.
I actually just wanted to follow up on that because the college system in the US, the college sports are such a huge thing. The NCAA is not replicated anywhere else in the world. Has there been any pushback to the change in the college draft system? Is there a concern that kind of traditional pathways for athletes in the US is going to change and be more along the lines of what we see in Europe? Or is it something that people are embracing more so?
It's going to be interesting to see how college evolves. And between NIL and what you're talking about, I actually don't know how it's going to evolve. What it has done, though, is put a huge focus on pathways and development. Right? If you used to be able to, rely on college for 4 years of development before they came into the league. What you started seeing in the last couple of years is we have 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. They're already bypassing college. And now, if there's no requirement to be in college to make your way into the NWSL, we're all looking at what does an academy structure look like? What does youth development look like? Should we partner? Should we build? And that's a big focus of the NWSL, and it's a big focus of US soccer too. How do we, there's no clear pathway in the way that you have it here. So that's all, in the next 5 years is going to be built.
Yes, over here. Try and find Laura. Oh, no.
I guess just a question. What are the next steps for your football club, as in terms of revenue? Would you want to focus more on broadcast revenue, commercial revenue, or as you said earlier, matchday revenue, which obviously in turn helps the players get paid?
Yeah, so first we want to win. That is the biggest focus right now, is winning on the pitch. We have a new sporting director, we'll have a new coach soon. So winning is very important. It makes the revenue piece a lot easier.
But you're already the highest valued women's sports franchise in the world.
We're the highest valued women's sports franchise in the world.
Yeah.
We have I love the Deloitte report where it says that Barcelona drives the most revenue of any women's club in Europe at 8 million. We did 34 million in revenue last year. So, yeah, right? Yeah, and that speaks to my just incredible team, and also having something that people we find partners that are values aligned. So about 40% of that is sponsorship, 40% of that is ticketing, and about 20% of that is merch, concessions, parking. 0 for media and broadcast. So we've did this incredible 4-year deal at the NWSL level, $240 million a year. The profit we actually reinvest into the league, which is a group decision by all the owners. But we don't get any distributions yet from the league, and we don't have any yet on the local level. So whereas most clubs are supported by broadcast more generally, in fact, I think it was Luca who said it earlier, right? Like 60% of the team's revenue comes from broadcast, 20%, we have 0%. So what's exciting is as we think about continuing to build the competitiveness of the league, continuing to build the brands of the teams and the players, driving viewership. We had nearly 1 million viewers in our championship game last year. As we continue to drive viewership, when we go into that next media rights cycle, if we can double, triple, 10x what we did today, we'll start to see some distributions in the teams, which will be incredibly powerful. For Angel City, it's developing more assets to bring in more partners. So we announced we opened our performance center this year. It's a 50,000 square foot performance center and a pitch and a half for our players. It's a 5,400 square foot weight room, 3,400 square foot training room with 2 saunas, a cold plunge, a hot plunge, a sensory deprivation tank. We have a film room, a meal room. We have offices. We have this insanely large locker room. We have 3 locker rooms because we have our first team, players under 18, and our coaching staff. And so we put a significant amount of investment in that. So how do we then work with partners to monetize that is something we're thinking about and working on. And then as far as ticketing, we want a price point for everyone, but we don't ever want to price anyone out of the market. The league is growing. So we saw 2 teams come in last year. We're going to see 2 teams come in next year, which is already going to raise the prices. So we're more thinking about how do we grow our brand, how do we extend licensing, and how do we drive more sponsorship revenue.
And is that one right at the back over there? I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't
You
see
can
that
see the hand up. I can't even see that.
I just wanted to ask, because you said that you focus a lot on player payment equity, making sure that the players are paid what they rightfully deserve. But does that mean that you're willing to sacrifice the growth of the team to put more funding into the salaries for the players, or are you playing more of a long game with it where you plan to grow the club first and then kind of trickle that down into their salaries?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's no winning in that question, but the good news for me is I don't have to because the league doesn't allow me to. So the NWSL, unlike the WSL, we have a salary cap. So we have a max amount that we actually can invest in our players. We also have a max amount that we can do from a transfer fee. And if we go above the transfer fee, we actually get penalized on our salary cap. So to answer your question, we spend up to our salary cap. We will spend every dollar that we have up to our salary cap. Some teams don't, and that's their prerogative. So yes, we'll invest as much as we possibly can in our players. We're a huge proponent in the salary cap going up because we want to bring in players that we want to be able to pay them what they're worth and not let their compensation be a deterrent for coming into our league, because we know that if we get the right player, we'll be able to monetize them with ticket sales and merch sales and kit sales, and sponsors will want them and want to invest in them. We understand the business of high-performing players, so we want them, and we want them in LA. But with the league, this year it's a $3.5 million salary cap, and it goes up a little bit each year. So we can't go above that, otherwise we get penalized, but we spend up to it.
Yes, right in the middle here.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering if you have any opinions on relegation and promotion. Obviously, you're in a closed league in the NWSL, and there's a lot of conversation happening here right now about the possibility of scrapping relegation. So I'm just wondering what you think about that as an owner in terms of generating revenue and stuff.
I feel like that's a dangerous question.
It's loaded,
I would
isn't
answer it this way, which is I want to incentivize investment in women's football. I want to incentivize it. I want to build a business around women's football. So if removing the idea of relegation means that I'm going to continue to invest, then I would be in favor of that, right? If if it's the opposite is true and there's a supply and demand issue and you've got people that are in the second division that are investing and want to build and there's a value in going up, then I would keep it. But that's the lens that I would look at is like, where's the investment coming? Who wants to invest? How can we grow the sport? And what is the right system to incentivize that action? Because the challenge is if I get relegated, it's not my word, I'm not going to say it right. If I get relegated, then I'm not going to make as much money, my fans are going to get upset, they're not going to show up, so therefore I'm not going to invest. It's not supporting women's football. We don't have 150 years, right, of building fandom and generational fans. Like, we don't, right? So for me, it would be, what is the best system to encourage investment? Look, the reason we go from 53 million to 110 million in 1 year, it's supply and demand, right? They see the value of women's football, they know it's going to grow, and they need to get in now, right? Which system creates that best level of sort of competition for a few spots is how I would attack that question.
Julie, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Julie Uhrman, everyone. So the clock's been flashing for a little while, but we could have gone on even longer. It was fascinating. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely brilliant. We are at the end of the day of this conference. I know there's been some really special moments, and I hope there's been a lot for everybody to take away, not least from Julie's words there as well. Please welcome to the stage the Chair of Women in Football, Ebru Coxell.